So let's go back to what I said at the start and return to our original premise. Let's try and talk about, how we make the difficult much more easy. And who better to prove out this premise by introducing you all to an organization that has been on this journey with Catalyst Cloud. And that means it's time for us to introduce Richard Brown, the outgoing Chief Data Officer of Great Ormond Street Hospital. And Richard instigated a hospital-wide plan to roll out operational analytics using Fusion into every corner of the organization. So, Richard, if we could introduce you now, bring you in. I think the best question for me to start with is, why did you and the team decide to use Fusion rather than just sticking with Qlik Sense Cloud out of the box? Oh,
yes.
We can't hear you, Richard.
Oh,
we can hear you now.
Oh, can you? Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Don't know quite what happened. So thank you very much, David, for inviting me to this. Good. Yeah, so let me talk a little bit about how we came to choose Fusion and why we did it. Maybe just a little bit of background. So I've been with Great Ormond Street for the last 4 or 5 years, but I've worked with lots of different organizations, not necessarily in NHS, in lots of other industries. And I've worked with pretty much all the BI tools, all the sort of Tableaus and Power BIs and Qlik. And my view is that none of them really do that last mile to the user very well. There's always a bit of a gap in terms of getting it to that end user. So I think that's where I come in on this. And there's an assumption, and I've talked to the vendors about this. There's an assumption that you're prepared, everyone is prepared to learn their tool, understand what apps are about, and be able to navigate to sheets, do all of this sort of stuff in the Qlik environment. I'm trying to roll this out to execs and ward managers and service managers. They don't have the time to learn how to get to it. They just want to go to their reports, see what's relevant to them, interact with it. So actually, typically, wherever I've used one of these BI tools, I've built some sort of portal to give people access to this. Now, when I came to, we were on QlikView when I arrived, and we moved everyone onto Qlik Sense Cloud immediately. So we didn't do an intermediate on-premise version. We went straight to the cloud version. And realistically, when I saw Fusion, I went, oh, actually, this is a no-brainer. It gives us that portal access and and I'll come back to it later, maybe talk about the sort of business semantic layer on top of it that gave us that access to the Qlik capability. And it's because Fusion also uses all the Qlik APIs. You get all the functionality, but you get an environment that's very tailored to the end user.
I get it. So in terms of organizational buy-in, what was the kind of main driver for, going down this direction?
Yeah, Dave. So it was, the mass deployment thing. So I don't want, my analytics to be, my BI to be reserved to analysts across the organization. I want everybody to use it. So we have about 800 users in the system. Not all of them are active on a daily basis. We may have 400 or 500 who are using it regularly, but actually it's quite good that we've got all those other users who are casual users. It means that there are consultants and therapists out there who are coming in and using it on a casual basis. And one of the things, BI is effective, is intensely intrinsically an intuitive tool. It's something that people can interact with without any training. We all do it today using, on our phones, on our fitness apps and our banking apps. We'll have BI, we'll have charts and reports that we interact with on those. People can get to it and immediately do it. You don't need training. So one of the things we were able to do was to get it out to people, get it in front of people, and get them using it early on. I'm not saying you don't do training. We did do training downstream, and we do, particularly as the power users, we did quite a lot of stuff. But actually, a lot of that's about what the data is telling them rather than how the tool is used. So it was really about getting that sort of mass deployment, getting it out there quickly, and getting people using it and feeling it's part of the infrastructure of the hospital. I think it's also worth saying that, in terms of getting buy-in, this wasn't big money in the scheme of things. This was, it was pretty easy to take it as part of the overall package.
I've got it. Okay. And you've talked about that kind of, mass deployment. When you actually did the rollout practically, was it a big bang thing, or did you pick little phases to start with?
So we were in principle phases. So it was actually, so we had ClickView, and we had quite a lot developed in ClickView, but we wanted to build new as we went to ClickSense Cloud. Yeah. So we would take, modules that we would deploy, which then actually went quite wide across the hospital. So for instance, early things we did were things like activity and RTT, which are used pretty universally across the hospital. But clearly it was a limited content. And as we've gone on, we've built out that content, adding, theatres and wards and beds and all of those sort of things as we've gone along, and financial data and so forth. So we're increasingly expanding the footprint, but we started, relatively small. But one of the key things was making it available and accessible across a wide audience.